Commander Veltanos had seen many troublemakers during his tenure at the Galactic Naval Academy, but none quite like Cadet 13. The Zephyrian stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms that could crush steel and chitinous armor that had deflected plasma rounds during the Outer Rim conflicts. His species was bred for war, and 13 seemed determined to prove it every single day. The mess hall incidents alone had cost the Academy thousands of credits in repairs. Broken tables, shattered walls, and terrified cadets from dozens of species had become a daily occurrence whenever 13 decided someone had looked at him wrong. Even the disciplinary staff, hardened veterans from the toughest military campaigns, gave the Zephyrian a wide berth. Everything changed the day the human arrived. Marcus Webb looked unremarkable by galactic standards, a bipedal primate from a backwater death world, barely reaching 13's waist in height. What made him truly unusual was the small, furry creature perched on his shoulder, a Terran domestic feline named Duchess. Absolutely not, Commander Veltanos had declared during Webb's enrollment interview. Emotional support animals are prohibited in military installations. With respect, sir, Webb had replied calmly. She's not an emotional support animal. She's my partner. Earth's military protocol specifically states that bonded pairs cannot be separated during deployment. The commander had studied the documentation Webb provided, noting the official seals and certifications. Apparently, Duchess was classified as a tactical reconnaissance specialist, with her own rank insignia and service record. The absurdity of it all made Veltanos' head tentacles twitch with annoyance, but regulations were regulations. The first encounter between Cadet 13 and the newcomers occurred in the dormitory corridor. 13 had been his usual intimidating self, blocking the narrow hallway and flexing his combat claws as Webb approached. "Move aside, little Deathworlder," 13 had growled, his voice like grinding stone. "This is not a place for weak creatures." Webb had simply stepped to one side, allowing 13 to pass. But Duchess had other ideas. The small cat had fixed her emerald eyes on the towering Zephyrian and produced a sound that made 13's chitin plates rattle, a low, rumbling vocalization that seemed to bypass his auditory processors and trigger something deep in his genetic memory. It wasn't loud, but it carried an unmistakable message: predator. 13 had frozen mid-step. His 4 eyes, each the size of a human fist, had locked onto the tiny feline. For a creature that had never known fear in combat, the experience was profoundly unsettling. Something primitive in his brain screamed danger, even though logic insisted the threat was impossible. "Good girl, Duchess," Webb had said softly, scratching behind her ears. "Come on, let's find our quarters." As they walked past, Duchess had continued staring at 13, her tail twitching with what Webb recognized as mild interest. To the Zephyrian, it looked like barely contained violence. From that day forward, Cadet 13's behavior transformed dramatically. He stopped picking fights in the mess hall. He followed regulations to the letter. He even began helping younger cadets with their combat training, anything to avoid drawing attention that might bring him into contact with the humans. Partner. The change was so pronounced that Commander Veltanos launched a discreet investigation. Security footage revealed the truth. Whenever Duchess appeared in 13's vicinity, the massive warrior would find urgent business elsewhere. The Academy's most feared troublemaker was being terrorized by an 8-pound ball of fur. The situation reached its peak during a combat simulation exercise. 13's squad was pinned down by holographic enemy fire when Webb's unit arrived as backup. As the human dove into cover, Duchess calmly walked across the battlefield, completely ignoring the simulated explosions around her. She paused directly in front of 13's position, sat down, and began grooming her paw with the methodical precision of a predator cleaning blood from her claws. The psychological impact was devastating. 13, a being bred for warfare, whimpered. Contact High Command, he whispered into his comm unit, his 4 eyes never leaving the cat. Request immediate evacuation. We have a situation. After the exercise, Webb found 13 hiding in the equipment storage bay. The massive alien was curled into the smallest ball his anatomy would allow, all 4 arms wrapped around his head. She's not actually dangerous, you know, Webb said gently, settling down nearby. Duchess purred contentedly in his lap. She's just curious about you. Curious? 13's voice cracked. That creature hunts for pleasure. I have seen the archives. Your cats kill billions of small creatures annually for entertainment. Webb considered this. Well, yes, but... And they leave the bodies as gifts. Trophies of their conquests. That's technically accurate. 13 shuddered. How does your species coexist with such perfect killers? Webb looked down at Duchess, who was now purring louder and kneading his leg with her claws, a display that made 13 flinch visibly. Honestly, we're not entirely sure ourselves. Commander Veltanos later noted in his report that the Academy had never run more smoothly. Cadet 13 had become a model student, discipline problems had dropped to 0, and somehow, a small Earth cat had accomplished what years of military training could not. She had taught a warrior the meaning of respect. Though he would never admit it officially, Veltanos had put in a formal request for more human-feline partnerships in future deployments. The tactical advantages were simply too significant to ignore.